to order. Commissioner Gandy will lead us in invocation and pledge.
Roll call, please.
Oh, excuse me, roll call. It's because Anna's not here.
Commissioner Gandy?
Here.
Commissioner Campos?
Here.
Commissioner Butcher?
Here.
And Mayor Trujillo.
Here.
Will you join me in the invocation, please? Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you for this new year. Lord, we just thank you for the many blessings you put upon our community. Lord, I just pray that you would lead and guide this commission as we go through this year, that we make decisions that would be beneficial to our staff, beneficial to our citizens, and most of all, bring glory to you. Heavenly Father, Lord, we just pray for our police department, and fire department, that you would keep them safe. We pray for those overseas and the military at home, that you would keep them safe also. Lord, we just pray that you would be with the elderly and the sick, that you would help to heal them. And Lord, I just pray for our community that we would strive to do what is right in every situation. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
A motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Do I have another motion?
Make a motion to consider the minutes of December 10th, 2018.
Second that.
Got a motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on to Commissioner Staff Report. Dwight?
Mayor and Commissioners, just give you a little update on some of the projects around town. 17th Street water line, the line's in place, the 10-inch water line going down to the site for the new fire station. They did the tap on, or actually tied into the 10-inch today. We do have a valve that isolating it, so they can finish installing the rest of it, but it is tied in with a valve probably 5 foot off from the main line. So everything, once all the back T-samples come back and everything, and the rest of it's bedded in and everything, it'll be ready to go down to the new fire station. The second line, McDonald's Alley, it is in place currently, already tapped, pressure tested. We're waiting on the contractor to get back the back T-samples. Once the back T-samples are back and everything's good, we will flush the line and it'll be live, ready to go for McDonald's and anybody else. The 2 new taps, actually waiting on the 2 taps, the one for Aaron's and the car wash also to be tapped in after the back T comes back. Everything good. As you can see, Lovington Central is back open, and the little rainstorm that we got on, I believe, Wednesday night, Thursday night, somewhere, everything seemed to be flowing, no puddles or anything, and it seems like everything's working excellent. Other than that, I know James put out another one on all of our other CDBG projects and everything. We would probably be hearing back right after the beginning of the year on all that stuff. So, I'm open for any questions.
I guess I could have one on our traffic signs that we put up on 9th and Hopewell there. How are we doing so far with that?
We actually pulled, James asked me to have the guys pull a report this morning. I was unable, I briefly looked at it when they pulled the report. It was right after lunch. We do have some that were a little high that I seen during traffic times at school, as far as school, but I was gonna go over that report a little bit more. I can definitely let you know exactly what times or anything else that James wants to know.
Mayor Commissioners, we actually, they've been in place for a little over 30 days. So we had them pull the data up, and we're learning actually how to filter and sort. For example, actually both intersections in the past 30 or 35 days, going in the one single direction, either west or you're going north, we've had about 45,000 cars go past those signs. less than 1% of those were in excess of, I'm sorry, I think it was 1.63% were in excess of the posted speed limit. We do have the ability to look at the 30-minute blocks, and it gives you the number of cars and then the maximum posted speed. So we actually are going to be meeting with the police department. We already had a meeting scheduled for some other things, but to identify some targeted times as far as having an officer posted there just as a deterrent to catch those speeders. Since we do have a good sampling of data, we'll be able to narrow that down tomorrow through enforcement. In addition to that, we are going to be transferring those over to a trailer to make them more portable, so we can actually go to different areas throughout town where we do have those speeding complaints, and just as a visual reminder to slow down. But they are actually providing us some good data. We're still learning. However, if you broaden the categories too much, you get overloaded. The one report we received, it was 47 pages worth of data to sort through.
And who actually, I mean, is the chief going to monitor that, or?
So it's actually, I'm sorry, Mayor and Commissioners, it's actually the street department is in charge of those signs. And whether we want to do another 30-day, what they call a campaign, or if it's just going to be 2 week, I think I'm leaning towards more of a 2 week placement because there's less data to sort through. We can then identify those areas and then come up with some strategies with our police department.
Thank you.
I do want to, it's not a question, it's just a thank you, Wyatt. You took the call from me on Sunday morning right after church. Our church didn't have water. I called Wyatt, see if we could look into it. I didn't ask him to do it yesterday, but by the time I talked to him again today, he had an answer for me. So I appreciate that, Wyatt. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Wyatt. Chili?
Nothing to report, sir.
Commissioner Bernard?
Oh, yes, I do. I needed to address this one, I guess, to James. Pearson Oil Company, and, you know, Maine, D&E. I noticed that they're working on those, but is there any way that, have we actually contacted them to try to get those awnings and a lot of that stuff just tore on down and put away or covered up, or what's the deal on that?
Yes, sir. We've put in a couple of requests for them to make the property more presentable, but as the ordinance stands right now, there's nothing that says they can't leave that in place as is.
And there's nothing really the city can.
From a code, as of right now, no, sir. From a code enforcement perspective, unfortunately. But we have worked with them. I know that anytime something does fall out of compliance with our code as written right now, they're very quick to get on it.
And then also, one more, my mouth's just running right now, the tracks on K and over by the waste, we heard from them?
Yes, we have. Mayor, Commissioners, we've been going back and forth with the railroad as far as how to get this project done, and now it seems that we actually will be starting that project within 2 or 3 weeks. They'll be coordinating with the railroad. It's been a question of insurance and bonds. Long story short, it will be hopefully fixed before the end of February.
Thank you.
I have nothing.
Just real quickly, I was approached by a member of the Sheriff's Department earlier in the week, and they were concerned about the lighting, James. And I know you and I visited about that earlier. Would you mind elaborating on that?
Sure.
That concern?
Oh, yes, Mayor, Commissioners, actually one of the judges had previously contacted us a while back, and with the lighting, we do have the floodlight back in the alley between the Lister Building and the Lee Theater. We do have 2 of the ornamental street lights that are currently out. Street Department's supposed to be replacing those bulbs. Once we see that, we can take another look at it again, but there really wasn't an area in there where we could safely put a pole for some additional exterior lighting. And one thing that we didn't discuss is if we were, I don't know if we are able to put another light on the outside of either the theater or the Lister Building, since they're both historical sites. So that's something that we would need to work. Surely, if we can find another spot to put lighting where it doesn't conflict with existing utilities, we would prefer to do that. But if we put it on the outside of the building, we would just have to make sure that we clear that with historic preservation, because surely safety would come into play with those restrictions that they have on that.
Sure. And we talked about, of course, when the judicial complex opens up, the courts and all the proceedings is going to go over there, but there's still going to be county employees that are going to be leaving at night, and they're concerned about them as well. So thank you for that, James.
Thank you. Commissioner Gann?
I do not have anything.
Chief?
Nothing to report, sir.
Chief?
Nothing to report, sir.
James?
Happy New Year. And as you can see, we have a couple of staff who are out because they're ill. We have another one I think is coming down with something, so frequent hand washing, it helps stop the spread of colds. So everybody try to stay healthy because it is that time of the year. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Pat.
Nothing to report, sir.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to public comment. Anybody like to? Figured you showed up or something, David. I guess you did. All right. Go ahead and move on to non-action items. James?
Mayor Commissioners, the first item that we have for discussion is our Local Election Act. If you recall, last year during the legislative session, the state did pass what's called the Local Election Act, or actually voting reform. Part of this means that it establishes a date for regular elections as well as municipal elections. This means that if it's a municipal election, it can be run by the city clerk on the first Tuesday in March of even number years, as we've had it for years. Or it could be run by the county clerk, but it changes the date of the local election to the first Tuesday in November on odd numbered years. So that does have some implications for us here in the city. We have the ability to either opt in to the new Local Election Act or keep things the way that we want. The implications of opting in would mean that your terms would change. You would basically, instead of serving your term beginning in March, the election would be held in November. Your term would actually end, if it was a term ending in 2020, it would end on December 31st of 2019, and your new term would start January 1st, or you would serve until 2021. So it changes the length of service that you have and when your start dates are. In addition, one thing that we see is with any of our special elections, and this is not a choice that we have, but special elections are now all mail-in. And what that means, no polling places for a special election, such as the Sunday sales option that has been discussed several times. That would actually be a mail-in ballot, meaning we would have to go to the expense of producing the ballot, mailing that out to each registered voter in Lovington, and then paying for the return postage for those that we receive back. And those costs are solely on us. If we do choose the opt-in, the county clerk would run the election. We would have to pay an annual assessment to the Secretary of State, which is a $250 charge for every $1 million in general fund expenditures. This would cost us about $2,500 a year. And then to opt in, we would have to adopt an ordinance prior to January 31st of 2019. However, if we choose not to opt in, things stay the way they are. We thought that we should just have this discussion in public, in the open, so that way the commission can ask any questions that they may have, as well as the public. I know that this was something that our municipal league body was totally opposed against, and there was a lot of discussion at the municipal league meetings, but I know we as a commission have not discussed this to this point. If one of the commissioners, in order for us to consider even opting in, if we do want to opt into the Local Election Act, it would take one of the commission to make that request that we prepare an ordinance to actually opt in, so that way you could officially vote on it. And that is my report, unless you have any questions.
Mr. Mayor, I don't see it being beneficial to us. I don't think we'll have a better turnout or costs aren't really worth it, so I think we should just leave it as it is.
I agree with that, especially with the necessity to conduct the mail-in votes. That's going to be difficult, and the turnout is not even good compared to a regular casting ballot.
Definitely want to be special on the mailing, so. But yeah, we're still stuck with that either. We're still stuck with that either way, correct?
Correct.
What about the special election, like, let's say, a
The
liquor?
beer and wine.
We're stuck with the mail-in, yes, sir.
Okay,
Okay, the beer and wine would be mailed out as well as any type of funding.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes,
But regular elections would be just come in and cast ballot.
yes, sir. Or you have the option for the mail-in or absentee ballots, just like we have in the past.
I agree. I think we should opt out.
I do too. We've got staff that's capable of doing that, and don't want to give the state any more money than we have to, or county, for that matter.
Mayor, Commissioners, our next item is actually our first reading of Ordinance 568, which is the NMFA loan ordinance that we are required to adopt at the January 28th meeting for the purchase of the aerial fire apparatus. The debt service from this will come from the first, I believe it's the second option of our municipal gross receipts tax. This will also, the debt service will be satisfied by a transfer of approximately $33,000 for this first year from our state fire protection fund into the general fund. The NMFA decided that instead of doing an automatic deduction because of the changes in the way that the state fire protection fund is distributed to the municipalities and counties now, that they would rather us do an internal transfer to reimburse ourselves from that fund instead of doing an intercept agreement. This will payments will be made through an intercept agreement to NMFA. And what that means is that our gross receipts will appear to reduce, but that is to satisfy the debt service. They automatically take that payment out, much like our hold harmless bonds. Those are automatically deducted from our gross receipts tax, our capital improvement fund distribution every month. This ordinance would be presented for final adoption at the January 28th meeting, and we would close on this on February 28th of 2019. Our financial advisors, they did do a review and analysis of this, and they actually agree that financing through NMFA is the best route. We can actually get the best market, the best terms. This does actually allow us to call the note at 10 years and go ahead and pay that off so we can reduce some of our interest. They advise that even though the GRT increment that is pledged to help satisfy the debt service, that's normally part of our regular operational funds, with the increase in gross receipts tax, they don't anticipate any undue burdens to the city, and we should be able to meet all of our obligations. I would stand for any questions you may have, sir.
Any questions about the board? Thank you, James.
Our next item up for discussion is our ETZ board appointments. This is an annual appointment that takes place in January. Right now, the way that our ETZ board or commission, not the authority, is actually appointed, is made up of 3 members appointed by the city commission and 4 members appointed by the Lee County Commission each year. Our 2018 representatives were Steve Carr, Julia Myers, and Betty Price. We will, of course, as customary with any board appointments, we will go ahead and publish these positions that are open, but as far as I know, all of the current members, they are interested in being reappointed, but of course we would bring forth any other interested parties' names for your consideration at the January 28th meeting.
Any questions? Thank you, James.
Okay, if you recall, we did budget funding to replace our entry signs into the city. We did bring in several citizens throughout the community to get their feedback, give them an opportunity to provide us with some ideas and concepts. It's been an interesting process where everybody thought we were going to one direction, but when we did the mock-ups, they quickly realized that that was not going to work. So what they have come up with, and you actually have, those aren't just coloring books that you're, that is in case you have any ideas that you would like to maybe consider. But our citizen committee actually came up with 3 different design options. This first one, now mind you, this would be about a 7 or 8 foot tall sign, about 7 foot wide, which would be a ephes or a stone type material, almost looks like stucco instead of metal. These would be all of these, the lettering on these signs would be backlit as well. So this is the shape of New Mexico. It kind of goes along with what our current logo is that we're been putting on our shirts. Kind of the heart indicates where we're located at in the state. Our option B, this is even taller, about 14 foot tall. Of course, we'd have a stone bottom, backlit lettering, probably a subdued color, but one thing that was brought up by one of the individuals they thought was some creative lighting at night, it could even be appear that the state of New Mexico might be floating. Our third option, same dimensions. This is actually a hollowed area here with the aspect of kind of embracing what the younger generation looks at things, placemaking. This would be how would this look on Instagram? So this would be a kind of, I guess you could say, Lovington's Welcome to Las Vegas sign. Something very prominent out there to just welcome you to the city. But these are the 3 concepts that they've come up with. And unless there's any drastic changes, or if the general opinion of the commission is they don't like any of the designs, staff would like to go ahead and publish these to our website through an online poll, so we can get some feedback from not only our online citizens, but we'll also have a means for them to submit their opinions or votes on those signs here at City Hall. And at the January 28th meeting, we would like to bring this back to you with the information from the community as far as what their opinion is on the general concept of the signs, where we can have a discussion and an action item to choose one of the 3. With the intent, then we would be able to start soliciting bids so we can hopefully get this project started, and I would hope complete, depending upon cost. Hopefully get all 4 replaced by the end of this fiscal year that we had set out to do. Do you have any questions or comments about the signs?
Let's put it back to 8, James, if you don't mind. What I was looking at is I've seen some other communities, I'm sure you guys have too, where it's like a dual language introduction. Places like, I don't know, Las Cruces and Albuquerque that I've seen. And for the have it in English, you might have something like Bienvenidos. You know, maybe I could see that at the bottom of, or towards the middle of this sign here. I don't know, what do you guys think about that?
How does that second one look? Oh, it just has just.
I know a few people in the community are really opposed to that. They've expressed that to me several times. I can care less either way, but I do know there's some that don't really care for the dual language.
Did it say what?
They're I don't know how to put it in a kind of firm. So that's why, yeah. So, I mean, they just truly believe that it should be that way. Let's just put it that way. So.
Can you show C again, James? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
I just seen it.
And I like to see too.
Yeah, I like to see it.
Because I can put my mug in there and take a picture of that.
You know, I absolutely I like B the best. I do like C. I just see some bad teenage decision making that we discussed earlier off record. But and then the only issue I have with B is, I mean, I absolutely love B. I love that one. But you know, it could be portrayed as Lovington built a wall. So just throwing that out there, you know, I mean, maybe I'm the only one that sees it that way, but forgive me for seeing it that way. But I do love the imagery and the brick layout on the bottom, but somebody could see that meaning something different.
That's why I like C. It's just a little bit more colorful. You know, has a little bit more to it. It's where when you drive by, you're gonna look at it. It's just not just gonna be a piece of stone. It's gonna have a little color to it. That's what I like. All right, James, yeah, put it on the web, see what you think.
We will get that done. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, you know what? I skipped some stuff.
Yeah.
Our next one is the evaluation form. I know last year it was discussed maybe looking at the evaluation form that's used for the city manager's evaluation. The comment was made it's either, pass, failure, satisfactory, unsatisfactory. We've provided you with several different examples from ICMA, different communities around the nation as far as the format that is utilized to evaluate city managers. So now is the time for the commission to discuss it, whether we want to change moving forward or how you would like to proceed.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I did ask that this be brought back as a topic of discussion. The reason being is that the previous and current evaluation is just a point grading system, a numeric grading system, but there is no real room for direction, for improvement, or concerns, or anything of that regard. We basically just give them a numeric grade and that's it. I think it would be beneficial to James and his staff that we offer some direction as a commission based on what we know from the community, where he can implement some of those changes if needed, or we can actually give him even more confidence in the job he's doing now. So that's why I asked that we look at maybe another evaluation form. And you submitted one which I really liked, James. Any way you can pull that one up? Is it available?
No, sir, I don't have access to that on this particular computer.
If I may, guys, let me talk about that form. And it really has an area where it's the job dimension. It mentions 9 different aspects of job dimension, and then it ranks it. But I would like to see the performance ranking, which is actually the evaluation of 1 through 4, in the second column, James. And in the third column will be just comments regarding those rankings. Does that make sense?
I would need to find out what file that you were looking at, but we could bring something back. That's
okay. I just thought it'd be something better than what we have right now, because what we have right now is just a numeric grade is all it is. No room for direction, and this would provide room for direction. Your thoughts?
Yes. On my feelings about it, I just don't want it too lengthy. I think I always like straight to the point. It's either going to stay or you're going to go. One of the two. That's the way I look at it.
Well, it's going to be more
like
than that.
20. I mean, like 20. It's because the evaluation's good. I like evaluation. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't like. But the last time we had like 50 questions, and it's like 50. Then at the end, even if you vote like Scotty normally votes on it, our numbers, and he's either going to say you're going to either keep the city manager or not. I mean, that's really the bottom line. You could have a lot of stuff on. You can have a whole thick book on it. In the end, is he going to stay or is he going to go? But I think the only tool we can ever use that is if we have to terminate a city manager. Not saying we're doing that with Jane, but that would be the only tool that we would have available in case we had to do so. Because you don't want to bad part, but you can use it against us, saying, "Well, you graded me high, why are you getting rid of me?" Something like that. I don't know if that would go in that route, Patrick, or not. But that'd be the only tool we have to evaluate him in that point. But I just didn't want to have too much, because I think here lately, I think we had over 50 questions. I was like, and there was some of them were repetitive questions. But I agree with Paul. I mean, I'd like to see some a portion in there that states at either beginning or the end on the direction the board feels he needs to go. But the thing about it is, you never know. You get a new board here, they may want to change some questions up following year. So I don't know.
I would just ask that if you could re-email that stuff to us that you sent.
yes, sir.
There's no telling where I put that.
Okay.
Or, so,
There is a lot. He did like he sent like 10 of them. Yeah, just 10. Yeah, that's
so if you can figure out which one Paul's talking about, and then a couple more that
Sure.
we can read over.
That's
pretty
what
sure
I'm-
they're deep
That
in
I'm
the
talking
email.
about has only got 9 sections, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's got a rating for each of those sections, and then the third column is just an area for comments where you can write a comment based on what you thought about that rating. Real simple, but it's pretty elaborate, and it offers us some opportunity to provide him some information. So, guys, look at that.
Thank you. Okay. guess we'll keep brainstorming this.
Yes, sir.
What do you guys want to do on that? Do you guys want to submit questions and kind of like brainstorm it, put it all together, and then come up with a package, or how do you guys want to do that?
Why don't we look at what he's already submitted? And the one
Tweak
that
it a
I
little
talked
bit.
about.
And tweak it a little bit, or well, we can't really. How can we do that? That's what
Well-
I'm saying. We can't have an open.
Right.
An open
If I may suggest, why don't I get with Commissioner Campos after the meeting and find out, I think I know which one he wants, but we could look at the other ones that are very similar to what had been discussed, and then resubmit those by email to you all, and we can bring this back at our January 28th meeting for more discussion. That way we're in compliance.
Maybe have something.
Sure.
Something we can maybe still tweak just a little.
Mhm.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Our next non-action item is the discussion of non-city employee to the Personnel Committee. The Personnel Committee, they are a resource for our employees, in addition to reviewing all of our, providing a third-party view for accident review. For many years, we've had, this committee is made up of city employees that are elected. We have supervisory and non-supervisory positions. Those are elected by the city employees. But then we have one non-city employee that is appointed by the city commission, and that appointment has typically always been an individual who's involved in human resources. Jeanette Ferris has been our representative for many years, and she is retiring. So we are currently looking for individuals with an HR background who are interested in serving on our personnel committee to be considered for appointment. Right now we have two individuals, Amy Coombs from Ferguson Construction and Josue Rodriguez from Norley Hospital. Both do fit the profile of this appointment, but we'll bring this back to the City Commission on January 28th.
For a vote, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's it.
That's all you got? Thank you, James. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, moving on to action items. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for approval of ordinance number 564, amending Title II, Division 5, Chapter 2.84, Youth Center Board, and amending Chapter 2.9, Parks and Rec Board.
Second. You remember?
Gonna make it?
Yeah, I'm going to
Can we get a second?
Yeah, he did
Oh,
second.
okay.
Needs a
Yeah,
vote?
motion second.
Mayor and Commissioners, the first part of the, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead. Okay, I'll just wait for Bernard to stop.
I'll talk over him. So, as requested, this is the same ordinance that was brought to the commission at our last city commission meeting, but the only additional change was the request to have quarterly reporting by the chair of the board to the commission as far as the activities of that particular board. So we've added that language to the youth center as well as to our Parks and Recreation Board. So this has been advertised with the revisions and out there for review. And now it's time for the final vote on whether to change or leave it as is.
Any discussions by the board?
Yeah, for me, I really, like, don't think that we need to pass an ordinance, to give a quarterly report for this. And I know, because as I understand, the commission already has that ability to get a report just anytime, we ask, as long as it's brought to you in time to get that report. I think really like singling out just the youth board to give a quarterly report, no, I don't really think we should do that. But that's my personal opinion on that, but that's just how I feel. And like I say, we do have the ability to get reports anytime we want them, the way I understand it. So we don't need to pass a law to get a report from the youth board. I'm just saying. Turn it over to somebody else if they.
Yeah, if I might add, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
It's not just the youth center that would be compliant with the reporting requirement, it'd be the Parks and Rec Board as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so the reason for that is that any items reported to the commission can be discussed in an open public forum and not just, well, this is what's going on right now. And that's the reason for that reporting, I would think, to make sure that the entire community is aware of what's taking place, because otherwise, nobody knows.
Well, as it is, Mr. Mayor, we do have, you know, the public does actually have access to, getting reports on what goes on at the center. You know, it's through the, you know, the meetings,
The
you
website,
know,
yeah.
Wi-Fi, James. You know, there's several different, options of getting what's going on with each board if we had to.
How many boards we have out there right now? Currently, James? Think about it.
You would.
I just would hate, the only thing is that we required 2 to have quarterly reports, and all of a sudden, sometimes I feel like sometimes we do an overkill on reporting. You know, if you have a video, you have, like let's say for instance, this evening, if anybody wants information, they can tune into the YouTube. A month from now, they can tune into it and see if what went on.
Well,
You know, that's
we have 5.
5.
Yes,
So
sir.
this would currently put 2 at
Unless I
required, the other
miscounted.
3 would not be required.
Correct, and if I may, Mayor and Commissioners, you know, our Planning and Zoning Commission, I guess you could say, any actions that they take are presented at the first meeting following theirs. We have lodger's tax, it's the same, and our ETZ board. I'm sorry, we have 6. Our library board is another one that they don't have that recording requirement.
Mr. Mayor, I just think in the era of transparency, I think it's important. I mean, I don't see a hardship in reporting. I don't see anybody who would be against this. We're all trying to communicate with each other. Some people have access to computers, some don't. Some people view this as a live feed, and I think it'd be a great forum to provide any information we might have. I pose this question to you. What's the last thing that was discussed in the Parks and Rec board or the youth board? Because I don't know.
But aren't they televised? The Parks is televised as well as the youth board is, right?
Right, actually, Mayor and Commissioners, we did not, the last Parks and Rec Board meeting, we did not stream as it was held out at the park. We didn't have the cameras available to do that at that point. We did have a youth center board meeting at the beginning of this month. That one was streamed, but the one prior to that, we had that down at the youth center, and it was not streamed.
I don't see any problem with that. I thought we had already discussed it, but it's totally up to you.
You got any thoughts on that, Commissioner?
For live stream. We've been fighting over this for a while. I'm just ready to get it done. I didn't want the Parks and Rec to put it all in there, or I didn't want the youth to put it all in Parks and Rec, but this is kind of what y'all wanted, so, you know, to the point, so let's finish this up and move on to something that needs to be handled.
I agree.
You know, if they don't like the quarterly reporting, you know, it'd be nice to have somebody stand up, because a lot of us don't watch the other live streaming, I'm not gonna lie. So, you know, it'd be nice at least quarterly to hear what's going on in the other boards. You know, I'm pretty sure most of us are pretty busy people, not that the people on these other boards are not extremely busy also, but it would be nice to have, you know, just to kind of have an idea of what's going on, you know, so.
And like Commissioner Bernard stated earlier, is just, we have the right, as commissioners, any of us have the right to put any board on the agenda and ask for a report. And now all we have to do is either say yea or nay at the beginning of the meeting. So, what I was referring to, so that could go back with the library, the lodger's tax, and so forth, if we so choose, or so move to do so. All right, Any other discussion? Excuse me.
No, sir.
Jillian, you want to do a roll call vote?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Gandy?
Aye.
Commissioner Campos?
Aye.
Commissioner Butcher?
No.
Mayor Trujillo?
Aye. Do I have another motion?
I'm sure where we're at here.
Number 2. Item
Yeah, but I'm just gonna ducks in a row here.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to consider approval of ordinance number 567, amending Title II, Division 6, Chapter 2.92, Personnel Merit System.
I'll second it.
I have a motion second. James?
Mayor and Commissioners, this ordinance was discussed, and we received approval to advertise at our previous meetings. This will amend our personnel merit system to make adjustments and bring us into compliance with the Affordable Care Act by establishing classified employees, or your what we call part-time employees, but your classified part-time employees, those are those individuals who work a regular schedule, not just as needed. If they work more than 30 hours, they are allowed to participate in the city's health insurance program. And then also our some grant requirements that we do for our classified part-time employees have to allow paid sick leave. They would accrue this at 1.85 hours per pay period, which is essentially six days per year that they would earn. And then as well as a classified part-time employee would be entitled to holiday pay. Should their regular schedule fall on a city-observed holiday, they would be eligible for the holiday pay, which is paid out at straight time.
Any discussion by the board?
You good?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Have another motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for resolution 2019-001, authorizing parking limitations on Gum Avenue between Main Street and 2nd Street.
Second it.
Had a motion second. James?
Mayor and Commissioners, this item was discussed at our planning and zoning meeting last month, and with the construction of the wellness center as well as the soccer pitch and outdoor walking area right along the truck bypass or Gum Street, we did make a recommendation to P&Z, which they do recommend, to limit parking on Gum Street between Main, or on-street parking between Main and 2nd Street. The hospital will be, as part of this project, putting in a fence along Gum Street, but we just want to prohibit that on-street parking because both of those areas will be open to the public, and we want to reduce a potential safety hazard.
So 2nd Street's all the way down here to the end of it, right?
This is, yes, sir, this is
So
2nd Street, and this would be where it terminates.
How are we gonna handle the houses? Is basically, you're saying no parking on both sides of the street or just
Correct.
the south side of the street?
The recommendation, I'm sorry.
Because my concern would be is now you're limiting what that person can park in front of their house. We've had the same issue with the school, so I'm kind of wavering here.
The recommendation initially was just on the south side, but planning and zoning did recommend that both sides of the street be included.
Yeah, because you have 2 residential to your left, or 3 practically, but you have 2 because that fence is too close to the street. So you have 2.
But you know, realistically, if they wanted to park in the street, like anywhere else, they could, except for, you know, that would be my only concern. The rest of it, I have no issue with.
They're not going to have access anyway once they put that fence up, right?
Mayor and Commissioners, there is, as far as I have been told, there is no intentions of putting any type of a gate or a break in the fence. I do not know how tall of a fence it may be, so I don't know if it's something that they could easily climb over or just walk around the ends. That's why the boundaries are pretty wide. Along the Main Street, this is just a big drainage pond. I believe it has riprap all the way down, so kind of is not good for walking across. So just that man-made barrier there would help. But 2nd Street, that is going to be level ground.
Any other questions or?
Trying to remember if I've ever even seen a car parked
Yeah,
in between those two blocks right there, because we do have a lot of truck traffic.
but they got plenty of parking area in front of their businesses, as well as them two houses, two residential.
Not too worried about the businesses, because, but
They got
it's more
yards, yeah.
the residential. Because you get sworn by the people on K, so. All right.
Any other discussion?
Good to go. Let's roll with it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Do you have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for resolution 2019-002, fiscal year 2019, third quarter's lodger's tax funding.
Second it.
Motion second, James.
Mayor and Commissioners, in your package, you can see we did meet with the Lodgers Tax Board for our third quarter, and they are recommending funding in the amount, a total amount of $25,850. This does take into account our revenues are on target, our expenditures are also on target as well. We have seen an uptick in lodgers tax, of course, and that is associated with the economic activity in the area. But it is our recommendation that the commission adopt or approve the board recommended amounts for each one of these events and organizations. If I may, one thing, the Wild Bunch Spring Brawl, we did talk with Mr. Gomez about this. I'm not sure if any of you have driven by the Harold Reynolds softball complex. The fence is 100% complete now. However, with the discussions that we had with Mr. Gomez, the turf is still under restoration, and even by his, I believe it was the second weekend in March he wanted to have this, we're not really going to have any grass. And we let him know that, you know, it's just physically impossible to have grass that quickly. He was fine with it because it is an upgrade, so he still plans on proceeding with that particular tournament.
Any discussion by the board?
I'm good with it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Do you have another motion?
I'd like to make a motion to consider resolution 2019-003, municipal records retention policy and email retention guidelines.
Second.
Have motion second, James?
Mayor and Commissioners, the state has revised its records retention schedule, and the New Mexico Municipal League Clerks and Finance Officers Association has compiled a listing that you can find in your packet of how long we should keep records. Anywhere from a parking violation to plans for buildings to bid documents. I believe it's about 5 pages long. Also some email retention guidelines, since those are actually public record. It does specifically list what types of emails are public record. But we would request that the commission adopt this by resolution.
On this, they just would have to request the data, or they can get it online after this is complete. Is that, what are your intentions on this?
Yes. Well, Mayor and Commissioners, we are working diligently to have everything digitized. So, for instance, if we look at a joint powers agreement, the recommended retention guideline is 10 years after the termination of the agreement. However, any joint powers agreements that we have that are digitized, there's no need to eliminate that particular record unless we get to that critical point to where we've run out of space. But with the way technology is progressing, additional storage is coming down in cost. So it would be my intention that we wouldn't have to ever eliminate the digital copy. The paper copy, on the other hand, we could destroy that particular joint powers agreement if this policy is adopted after 10 years after that final termination date.
Is this a typo on the personnel file? 55 years?
No, sir.
Holy.
Even, and I don't recall off the top of my head, but I know that OSHA standards for a bloodborne pathogens exposure,
30 years.
it's 30 years post-employment.
It's easier just to bury them. Sorry, that was rude.
So we're gonna have, okay, and we'll have a backup, I guess. That's gonna be tough.
Yes, sir. Right now with our laserfish, of course, it was hit during the ransomware issue that we had. So we are restoring those from backups, and so our database is actually backed up every day. But it's just a matter of getting all of those records. We've been here for over 100 years, so we have all of our commission minutes that are being uploaded. We're having to re-navigate our website, make some changes internally from an IT standpoint to get that access open back up. But it's a pretty good task. We actually have somebody who that is their sole purpose, is to get everything digitized and caught up.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for resolution 2019-004, approval of cooperative project agreement between the city and the New Mexico Department of Transportation for Commercial Street Phase 2.
Second.
That motion second, James.
Mayor and Commissioners, this is the formal construction agreement that we received from the state, which provides us $1 million in federal funding for the finishing out Commercial Street from Van Buren all the way out to the Tatum Plains Highway. Of course, we did receive some capital outlay funding for this. Our match for the grant requirements is $170,000. Pleased to say that the project right now is undergoing review at the state level to make sure that all of the federal requirements are met, and we're hoping to really get construction started before the end of the fiscal year.
Any discussion about that? Everybody good to go? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Do I have a motion?
You want to make this motion, Tom? Be a first.
We can use it.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to pay.
You didn't have to say it, did you?
No, I didn't have to think about that. Pay the bill.
All right, we got it.
I'll second it.
Motion second, James.
I'm going to do my best. So the Accent Landscape Contractors for $95,849, that was for completion of the Harold Reynolds Complex irrigation system. We also have for AEP New Mexico, this was for the equipping of police units, lights, sirens, and different equipment that they have. BICI for the $12,500. This was chemicals for the wastewater treatment plant. We also, further on down that page, we have CES for $47,000. This was for portions of 17th Street design, as well as additional payments for the downtown projects that we've had. Sir?
Before you get too far away, Emeritus?
Emeritus, that is actually that is our former pension system. Before we went to PERA, we had employees who currently still work for the city that had the option of not opting into PERA. So this is the employer and employee portion that gets paid.
Okay, I just don't remember.
Is that like a 401k?
Yes, sir. Then we have CW Divers for $94.71. This was to clean one of our water.
Both of the tanks out the well.
Okay, our well-filled water tanks. Moving down, Don Chalmers Ford, this was for $38,000. This was the purchase of a pickup for our street department. Correct, or was that? No, that was our wastewater department. I'm sorry, for our skid jetter. Then we have Elliott and Waldron for $57,557. This was for purchase of 2 lots that we approved previously for our Veterans Memorial Project. ENMU Roswell for $7,600. This was for 4 fire department employees to get their advanced EMT certificate or licensure. It's the full class. So, yeah. Higginbotham Bartlett is a little higher this month for $7,300, and the reason is I want to say about $1,800 of that was to replace the fencing at Rest Haven Cemetery. The old posts and rope were rotting, so they replaced that with a split rail fence to keep vehicle traffic to a minimum. Let's see. IT Quest for $5,700. Those are for some temp employees that we currently have hired in our water department as well as motor vehicle. Clean Tech is our municipal facility cleaning service. Corterra, oh, I'm sorry, that one was $1,300. That's for our 811 dues. Blasco Construction for $269,000. That was the for pay application 1 for the 17th Street Fire Station, and we have already actually received today our first reimbursement for that from the bond proceeds. Then of course we have our Lovington EDC for $12,500 and Lovington Main Street for $15,700. Those are for professional service agreements as well as lodgers tax fund disbursements. Moving along, Reed Insurance for $270,999. That is a portion of our city general liability, property auto, and inland marine insurance. Richardson Ford is for purchase of a police vehicle. I believe on the last page, Stryker Flex Financial. This was an annual payment for the lease agreement we have for the ambulance power load system. And I believe that is all.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Oh.
break you up, James.
Go ahead.
Speaking of paying bills, I know that we're paying the employees a portion of the wellness center. Could
Correct.
you just speak about that? There's some issues there that they're not our issues, is that correct?
Correct. Mayor Commissioners, it was brought to our attention that a couple of our employees or their family member have gone into the wellness center, and it's showing that the bill is past due, and it's the timing. We have paid the bill, but their accounting software hadn't been updated yet with our payments, and so they are aware of the situation. Mitch, who is the director, is working on that, but be assured we are paying our portion when we get those invoices in.
And they do utilize a code if you tell them you're a city employee or
Yes.
whatever the case is, where they go ahead and allow you to go in, so. You guys been going, you would know it.
I try to go, but they're always closed on Sunday.
Yeah.
Good.
Every time.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, guys. We've been up to Scotty, anything else to do, brother? Huh? You doing something on the side? Make sure you get going to work with the rest of them.
First year in 10 years, we didn't go somewhere.
Oh, yeah, the same one. I said lifesaver, I was like, what's life work, lifesaver?
All right.